Hello. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Trey Jerome. On this channel, we talk everything social, political commentary, and of course, story times. And I'm supposed to be doing a story time, but I'm not doing a story time today because I think something is fucking wrong with me, and I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what it is. I think I'm just in this very transitional period where everything in my life is looking decent. You know, money looking decent. I'm making more money every month. Right now I'm a full-time content creator. I be getting promos, brand deals, all type of shit. Money coming in, money up off the money, doing shit like that. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but shit just crazy right now. My future is looking decent. Like, it's like shit just going up for me. I don't know what is going on in my love life. I don't know what's going on in my life. I don't know why I think something is fucking off with me. It's not even a think, it's a no. It's a feeling in my gut. It's like something is off, but I can't figure out what it is. You get what I'm trying to say? And I'm questioning everything in my life, and everything is just aligned in the way that it needs to be. When I was a little boy, I vividly remember it was just always something wrong with me. Like, there was always something wrong with me. I'm talking about, like, from a very young boy, I was scrutinized by family, friends, and parents, everybody, teachers. It was just always something wrong with me. Like, I was either too flamboyant, too feminine, too gay, too mean, too blunt, too honest. It was just always too much. And as I've gotten older, and when I'm getting in this social media platform, I've learned that being too much is what gets you through the door. You get what I'm trying to say? And it really, 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 really does. I remember by the time I was like 7, 8 years old, I had realized that me and my daddy didn't have a relationship, and that fucked me up. Why? I was born in 2003, okay? 2003, December 27th was the year that I was born. And that year that I was born, I feel like we were kind of going through a transition. It was no longer cool to be a deadbeat dad. Like, in the black community, we definitely had that era, that renaissance where it was so many deadbeat dads for decades. Like, niggas legit did not know who the fuck their daddy was. Like, niggas, like, that was like a cool thing. Like, and if you said that shit to your homies, like, hey, nigga, that shit not cool, you know, you was kind of the bad guy. I didn't grow up like that. All of my friends had their daddies. Like, even like in the hood, like, I remember like my cousins had me and my cousins was the only ones who really didn't have daddies. But like, in my neighborhood growing up, all of my friends had daddies. And I remember I had a childhood friend. I'm not gonna say his name on here, but I had a childhood friend specifically that I remember his daddy adored him, everything about him. And I remember just asking my mama, and just being like, Ma, you know, why do he, why, essentially, I don't know what exactly I said, but framed in the voice of a 5-year-old and in the message of a 5-year-old, or how a 5-year-old would articulate it. I asked my mom, I just said straight up, like, listen, why don't he like me? Like, why do he, you know, have a good relationship with me? And I remember visibly her looking at me and saying, if you were more like masculine, he would appreciate you more. And I remember like being like, well, what is this idea of a boy? Like, because let me not, I said she wrong. She told me, she said, if you act more like a boy, he would, you know, talk to you more, and he would be around you more. And in my head, at being like 5, no, I think I was like 7 years old at that time, because we lived on Linden and Coyle. I remember visibly thinking in my head, well, what the fuck? What is a boy? How does a boy act? Because I mean, as a child, I knew I tell people, I knew I like girls before I like boys, if that makes sense. So I knew at a very young age, I like girls. Like, that was just the thing. I never thought about liking boys. That was never a thing. That was a thing that society put on me. Like, it was a thing that I tell people all the time, like, growing up, I never had an attraction to guys. That was never the thing for me. I didn't have an attraction to guys till I was like 16. I don't know what it was. And I think I did subconsciously have an attraction to them. But it was more so one of those things where it was like, I think because I grew up in such a homophobic environment, which we'll get into a little bit later, those feelings and that attraction was kind of smushed and downplayed. It was just kind of like, that shit wasn't cool, so I just never paid attention to it. I guess I ignored it, you know. And I just remember visibly in that moment being like, well, what the fuck is a boy? And I went through that journey of my life just like trying to figure out, well, what does that look like for me and what does that look like for you? Because so many people have so different outcomes and so many looks on what is a boy and what does a boy do? How does a boy dress? How does a boy act? How does a boy live? And whatnot. Like, what does that really look like for a young man, especially a young black man? Because what we don't talk about a lot of times with black men are heavily scrutinized in a way that most other or the other races of men are not, right? Like, meaning I get my haircut by the Dominicans, right? Which, by the way, he just fucked my haircut. I don't know if y'all can tell, it's pissing me off, but whatever the case may be. The Dominicans, them niggas switch. Them niggas wear tight clothes. Them niggas been wearing all of this shit that, black women and people as a whole bash black men for. Them niggas been doing that shit all the time, and they women love them. You know what I'm saying? For it. But black men can't do that. You know what I'm saying? And so I just remember at that moment just being like, well, what the fuck, After that, life kind of got good for us for a bit. We moved out of the hood. My daddy started getting money, It'll be days I'm coming home from school, my daddy count about 100,000, 200,000. I'd visibly watch my daddy count over 100,000. It was always money just all around the house, drugs around the house. At the time I was so young, I didn't even understand that drugs was drugs. I thought the shit was candy. Like, just being that real for you. People in the hood start envying us so much. Our house start getting broken into. Family members start switching. Bitches start hating on us. Bitches start going on Facebook. They start switching on them. People my mama literally gave the clothes off her back to, but I became very insecure within those first, couple years, those years 5 to 10. Like, my life just changed, shit just went different for me, and I was always fly. My mama kept me fly. But it went from more so rocker wearing Jordans fly to Ralph Lauren fly, which was the big thing at that time. Ralph Lauren, the True Religion fly. And then we moved from Linden to Coy to Redford. Now, we moved to Redford when I was young. I forget how young, but I was young. I was about 10. And I think we still had our house in Coyle for a minute. And I remember specifically just living in Redford. And people, I tell people in Detroit, it's like a thing where they say Redford ain't the suburbs, or Park ain't the suburbs, Southfield ain't the suburbs, all of that shit. But Redford was quiet. Redford was clean. Redford was, at the time I moved to Redford, it was an all-white neighborhood. I didn't have no black neighbors. It was a totally different experience for me. And when I first elementary school out here, because my mama took me from DPS schools and she put me in Fisher. And I remember going to Fisher, and I remember literally it being 5 of us, maybe like 8 of us. It was a couple black kids here and there, but in my grade, in my class, it was like 5 of us. Like, it wasn't too many, of us. It was all white kids. And I remember vividly, again, because all of the black kids in the class, they came from Redford. I didn't come from Redford. I'm coming from the hood. I'm coming from the trenches. Before we moved to London and Coya, we lived on Brightbow. Like, y'all hear the story times, y'all know. We coming from the trenches. I didn't know nothing about this. And it was a totally different experience, I was kind of like the ghetto kid. If that makes sense, I was the ghetto kid. I was the loud kid. I was the raunchy kid. I was the, this, that, and third. And I was fly. And you can kind of look at my family and tell you can kind of tell what we did. And people judged us because of that, just being real. Life was a little different for us. Most of the kids out here was out here. Because at the time, what people don't talk about was before, I would say 2016, this, that, and the third, if you lived in Redford, if you lived in Southfield, if you lived in Oak Park, you had a good job. You either had a good job or you did something illegal. That was very much so a thing. Like, everybody else, most people lived in Detroit. Like, that's very much so the truth. I don't know why bitches try to act like that's not the case, but it's the case. Growing up though, but moving here was just such a big transition. But it was a transition that I liked because, like I said, it was more peaceful. And honestly, that was one of the first times that I remember my parents really being at peace. And my family, my parents, and again, Redford is lower middle class. It's not like a suburb. But in my family at the time, at least the way they was treating it or dragging it, it was kind of like, shit, Lulu made it. You know what I'm saying? My mom had made it. They had got this house. It was they bought the house. They had cars. They had all these clothes, and they lived this nice life. The house stayed clean, and life was, decent, you know. I'm still navigating this kind of gray area with my daddy and just being like, well, what the fuck does our life look like? What does we what do we do? What's going on here, you know, with us or whatever the case may be? And I just couldn't understand it for the life of me, y'all. And I'm talking about all I remember was my motherfucking just being able to have my mama. You get what I'm trying to say? And I remember to this day me turning 10. I remember turning 10 because 10 was the first year, and I know this sounds so crazy, y'all. It was the first year I felt grown. Now, let's just take a couple steps back here. By the time I was 5 years old, I experienced every form of abuse. Sexual, mental, physical, emotional, every type of abuse that you could think of, I experienced it at a very young age. I'm talking about financial abuse, all type of shit. And I grew up, I'm going to talk about that, but I grew up with parents who battled so fucking much, you know, at a young age, and life just hit us, you know. And I was my parents' first child, so they didn't really understand, I don't think, what I was really going through, or I think they did understand some of it, but they knew they couldn't help, so they didn't. If that makes sense, like, I don't know. I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving explanations. Put it like that. And so by the time I was 10 years old, I was way more advanced than the average 10 years old. As y'all can probably tell from these story times, I lived the life. You know what I'm saying? I was living like a fucking teenager by the time I was 10. And but when I turned 10, my baby brother came in my life, Braylon. And Braylon was like the heart, he was the apple of my fucking eye. He still is. I adored my brother. My brother was everything that I ever wanted. And I just wanted somebody who just loved me purely, and that's exactly what my brother did. I'm talking like literally as a baby. I would come in his room and he would just smile, and he was just the peace and joy that we needed in that fucking household, y'all. And I just vividly remember that Braylon was born when I was 9, and he actually got big when I was 10. So with my baby brother, he was really just the apple of everybody's joy, and I really think babies do something magical to the household. They make the household just joyful and prideful. And it was not until one day, I'll never forget, y'all. I had a Mario Kart room. I remember the curtains. I could smell the fucking air. We was sitting in that goddamn house with the kids. Maybe we laying down, child. I was laying down. I was asleep. I don't know what time of the day it was, but it had to be a little bit early. And I get woke up by my mom. When I get woke up by my mom, she had on a red polo hat, whatever the case may be. She had on some spandex shorts, some type of slides, a janky shirt, and a Gucci bag. Wig was stiff, everything. Now, my mama was the wife of a drug dealer. A lot of y'all may not know that, but may not know about that, but those women keep themselves up a certain way, you know. My mama stayed fly. She stayed in the newest of the newest, the creme de la creme. And she just was a very fly, kept together bitch, you know. Like, I never seen my mama looked at that. So when I looked at her, I remember vividly looking at her like, what the fuck? She had all these tears falling down her face. And me and my mom always had that in common. Whenever we cried or whenever we mad, we just was crying. And it was just always a cluster of emotions that were coming out of our body. So anywho, y'all, she wake me up. And I remember her very saying, get up, get dressed now, put anything on. And I knew in that moment at 10 years old, it was something serious. I literally just put on whatever. I got ready fast as hell. I remember. And I've always been like kind of into my looks and looking a certain way and carrying myself a certain way. But yeah, so I put on all of my goddamn clothes. I get up everything. I put on my shirts or whatever the case may be. And I run to the door. My mama say, come on, Trey. And I come. She coming. She still rushing me. I'm going as fast as I can. Then I get to the door, my mama opens the door, she closes the door, and she pushes me back, and she looks out the window, and she said, oh my God. And I said, what the fuck? And I vividly remember being like, why is she saying that? Like, what's going on? And I remember she looked out this window. We had this big window in our house at the time. And I looked out the window, and it was a SWAT team outside. Southfield Police Department, it's Frederick Swopes here. And I remember being young, like looking like, because me and my daddy had the same name. Frederick Swopes, me? Like, they looking for me? You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. And they did. And they was looking for me. And so, I mean, they wasn't looking for me. They was looking for my daddy. And they was like, if you don't open the door, we gonna break it down. And they took, I don't know what it's called, but that big thing. And the second time they did it, my mama opened the door. You know what I'm saying? And they literally came in, dogs, guns. They got guns pointed at me. I'm 10. I got my baby brother. I remember sitting on the couch, and this shit was like a movie, y'all. I just watched them. Literally, they tore down the ceilings in our house. They tore everything apart. They tearing the toilets off. They ripping everything. The sliding doors, everything. They tearing the floors up. They taking the dirt. We had this little flower pot. They taking the dirt out the flower pots. They taking the microwaves. They throwing this shit. They trashing shit. They breaking shit. They are intentionally being rude to us, you know, talking down up on us, treating us like shit. My daddy had a Rolex at the time, and my daddy stole a Rolex. I remember this man looked at my dad, the other copy. He said, "Hey, Tom, you ever had a Rolex before?" And he said, "No." He said, "Whew," and looked me dead in my eyes when he did it. And I witnessed them do that, you know. I literally watched them steal and take everything that my parents, and I just watched my parents build, you know. And at the time I was a child, I didn't understand what was going on, but this is how I felt at that moment, you know. And so I just was just like in awe, and also in anger, you know, in anger and in confusion at a very young age. And at the time, I had been angry for so long, but that year when I turned 10 years old, everything started to become a bit more peaceful, because I grew up with this mom who was verbally, mentally, and physically abusive, and I had this dad who just allowed this shit to happen. I mean, like, he would just stand there. If he did say something to her, it was never in front of me, you know. And so I just grew up very angry and very mad and very fueled with anger at the world. And this was kind of the icing on the cake, you know. Child, after our house got raided, life went downhill. Why did it go downhill? My dad had trusted a family member with some money to hold us over for about 3 years. It was, I can't say the exact amount, but it was over 6 figures. That person became a crackhead, and they stole all of that money from us. Our family went broke. Going broke when you known for having money, or you known for having something, is one of the most horrible things that you could ever do in 1,000,001 years. And so we lived this life where we had cars, clothes, all of that shit changed. And I then watched my mom make everything happen. My mama went and got 3 jobs. She paid the bills, kept Jordans on our feet. We didn't have cable, but she made sure we was good. She made sure we had the newest of the newest. My mama made sure we was straight. And during those 3 years, my mama was so gone, in a way, but that was almost better for us, because it was like when she was here, it was like, oh, my mama here, you know. It was like I had no choice but to be happy to see my mom. And she wasn't as abusive, and she wasn't as mean, you know. Of course, she had her moments when she snapped, but she did it, you know. During all of this time too, my mama didn't want my brother to feel as if a burden on me. She wanted me to still be able to live my life as a teenager. So she was sending us to a family friend's house, Kawana. Kawana house was so fun. Why? Because Kawana house was the house that was not always the most put together. It was always a place where we could go, have a good time, turn up, have a ball. And over there, we had so much fun. They moved a few times, but it was typically like in that Brightmoor, Rosedale Park area, that Grandmont, Rosedale Park area, Grand River over there. And so we just always had a good time, a fun time over there, y'all, you know. And it was a time where I could just let my brother be. My brother used to be with Tanya. He used to sleep, have a good time, watch the show with them, check on my brother. And I'd be outside, you know. I started doing so much crazy shit, but really it wasn't even crazy, just being kids, breaking into abandoned schools, fighting, having a good time, arguing, just being a kid. In those 3 years, I remember, like, yes, doing crazy stuff, or what may be crazy to y'all, because when I start telling these story times, I had no idea in any way, shape, or form that these would be so crazy, because, I mean, I thought this was just growing up in Detroit. I thought this was kind of normal for everybody, if I'm being real. You know, I'm just being honest with you. But apparently it's not. And so I'm going through all of this, and after that, after we stopped going to Kawana house as much, I started going to my granddad's house, you know. And my granddad was the first real father figure I had ever had in my life. Why? My granddad was, well, he went to jail when my mama was 5 years old, and he didn't come back. His last time going was when she was 30. So he did about 25 years in the feds, or whatever the kids may be. But I always had a relationship with my granddaddy because my mama always took me to go see him. Therefore, I always just had this admiration for my granddaddy because he was just funny, and most importantly, he was himself. And even though I didn't know what that meant, I knew it was something that I wanted to do, and I knew I didn't have the room to do that. You get what I'm trying to say? And my granddaddy just was like the shit. He was just like funny to me. He was charismatic. He had a way with the ladies. He was built. He always been buff, and he literally just was amazing. Like, he literally, if it was 4 o'clock in the morning and I wanted to take a walk, my granddaddy would take me. If I wanted to go to Coney Island, he would give me the money. My granddaddy was the shit. I was spoiled by my mom and shit like that, but my granddaddy he did what he could. He wasn't, you know, as rich. Not rich, but he wasn't, you know, he didn't have as much money, but he you know, we did what he could, and whenever he could do it, he would do it. And I just respected my granddaddy, and my granddaddy taught me so much. My granddaddy was one of the first black men that I ever met that loved black women. And by this time, I had so much respect for black women. Why? Because I grew up with a black woman, and I was raised by a black woman that may have had what some would look at as a gorgeous life, an amazing life, right? But it was a very ugly situation, you know? I grew up with a faithful black woman. A lot of us don't understand the difference between loyalty and faithfulness. See, loyalty is rooted in connection, and faithfulness is rooted in character. So when you're a faithful person, you're standing beside somebody because that is who you are. My mama was a faithful woman. You know what I'm saying? I grew up behind a faithful woman. She was gonna hold her man down. If it was raining and he needed an umbrella, she made it shake, you know. She went hard for hers and everybody around her. And so my granddaddy was always that type of guy that made everything shake. And he just had an admiration for blackness, you know. My granddaddy was also one of the first black people I seen that stood against the church, you know. I just learned a lot from my granddaddy. He was kind of like this pan-Africanist, but really not a pan-African, but not a Muslim, but not a Christian, but had respect for them all, if that made sense. He was just a different guy. He was a character in my life, but he genuinely instilled so much in me. And one day I'm sitting on my grandma Willis-Steen couch, because my granddad lived with my grandma, which is my great-grandma, his mom. And I'm sitting on the couch, this, that, and the third, and in beholds my daddy. And I am elated to see my daddy. Why? We in the trenches, y'all. We fucked up. We don't got no money. We don't got no cars. We ain't getting the clothes. My mama doing what she can, but it wasn't much, you know. It was more so this relationship where we had to figure everything out, you know. I was in that stage of going to City Trends and making the outfits look fly, and going to the, you know, the pay for less stores and making the shit look alright, and doing it with the shoes and going this, that, and the third. And my mama would still give me like Jordan money. And then by the time he came home, though, we went from City Trends to Jimmy Jazz. So she was a little different, but still, my daddy kept me together. You know, he kept me together, you know. And so I was just happy to see him, because I just knew he was going to get our life on track, you know. And I remember him coming home and it just was like, life is going to be good. And the very second day he came home, we got into our first argument. And we had been arguing every motherfucking since. My daddy was a pain in my motherfucking ass, y'all. I could not stand his ass. And I think he came home with this, I'm your daddy, you gonna listen to me and you gonna do whatever the fuck I say mindset. But what he wasn't paying attention to was, nigga, you left when I was 10. You came back when I was, what, 14, about to turn 15. Like, I've been ripping and running the streets, doing all type of crazy shit outside, living life. Like, my mama already at work. Like, I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? Then on top of that, too, before you left, me and you wasn't, kumbaya. We wasn't best buds. And I just remember in that moment just being like, damn, like, this nigga really, really is kind of, like, weird, bro. Because it's like you not getting me. You know what I'm saying? And, I remember in that moment just feeling like when we got into our first argument, I said, this isn't the end. I knew it wasn't the end. And he played his part. I played my part. I was a kid. Let's just be clear. I ain't a victim of shit because I definitely had my role and shit. I was a kid who thought I knew everything and I was bigger than a motherfucking program. But my daddy was a man who was very stuck in his ways and thought because he was my daddy I was going to take anything from him. And to be honest, I probably would have if I viewed him as my daddy. Now, I lived with my daddy my whole life, except for when he went to jail. And when he... But I don't know nothing about my daddy. I don't know my daddy's birthday. We don't talk. And honestly, I'm at an age and a place in my life where I'm fine with that. Because every time I have made an attempt, because he's never really made an attempt. Every time I've made an attempt to try to talk to him, which it was 6 times, I remember every time. No, it was 5 times. It's always went left. It just seemed like something that he didn't want to do or he wasn't interested in. And then it would be times as I gotten older where he would come to my room and be like, oh, like, how was your day? And it just feels organic. And I think some people just don't mix. And I think for me and him, we just don't mix, And it bothered me a little bit. But now I'm at a place in my life where it's just like, shit, that's the reality of it all, Child. Next thing I motherfucking know, me and him just going at it in this motherfucking household. I'm talking every day. It was an issue. Oh, your pants too tight, this, that, and the third. It became very clear that he was policing my masculinity. And I did not understand why, because I wasn't attracted to men, I didn't feel like I did. I was, or whatever the case may be. And so I grew up in this just crazy ass environment, If it's not my daddy, it's my mama. Because my mom was abusive. Like, I don't want to shine away from this. Now, my baby brother, he didn't go through this with my parents at all, But I did. My mom was abusive. She would put her hands on me. I remember all the time, one of the things that I didn't learn, and I remember my one of my childhood friends had a baby when we were like 14. And I remember her great grandma coming in the room and telling her, like, you a single mom with a boy, you're going to get frustrated. What you never do is call your son a bitch. And she looked at me and she said, this is a well-rounded boy. His mama ain't never called him a bitch. And I remember in that moment, I sunk in my goddamn chair. Because not only did my mama call me a bitch, she called me a bitch-ass nigga, a hoe-ass nigga, a stupid-ass nigga, whooping my ass. She treated me like shit. But that was the first person that I know that looked at me and said, you are so well-rounded. You're so grown. This, that, and third. Like, I know, you just was raised overly right. And a lot of people, they hear my takes even on social media and they say that. That's not the case. I was a young man who has been emotionally, physically, mentally independent since I was a child. And I know that sounds crazy, but I just have. I had parents who was there financially, but I never had a mom that I could talk to about shit. I never had a daddy I could talk to about shit. I didn't have that. I didn't grow up like that. I had to figure this shit out for myself. This mindset that I have that people love, and I'm so grateful for. This shit genuinely just came from me. Like, it was just like me. I built this. I learned and I gained these things. And I think in a way I did kind of have mentors in life. But I went out. I signed myself up from therapy. Speaking of, when I turned 16, I went through one of the darkest. And I'm talking about, I don't think, God forbid, I don't want to, speak anything up. But I went through one of the most horrible times of my life, y'all. I almost I don't even like talking about the shit. It was so dark. Like, you see how it's a beautiful day outside? I will walk outside. This shit will all look great to me. I don't know how to explain it. I lost so much weight, I stopped eating. I would just go outside because going outside became my way of coping. Home was such a chaotic place for me that I fell in love with school. I fell in love with my studies. I put all my priorities in school. I became an A-B student. I became amazing. I stopped ripping and running the streets. And if I did get into some shit, it was every once in a while. It wasn't crazy shit. I just lived this life of just chaos. And so anything outside of my household was peace. And I know that sounds crazy, but it was very much so the reality for me. Child. But I just went so gray. That's the best way that I can explain it. I know that's not a good description, but it is. I just remember everything being gray. Like, I was so depressed, y'all. I was so depressed. Oh my God. I just remember it. And I remember vividly being 16, 17, trigger warning. Like, trying to hang myself and harm myself and just, I knew I wasn't gonna do it, but just setting it up and just wanting somebody to come in the room and say stop. But if they wasn't fighting me, they was fighting each other, my parents. Because that's another thing. I grew up in a household full of some alcoholics. Now, my daddy, when he came home, my grandma had got diagnosed with a terminal illness. So you just got out of jail and your mama finna die. Like, that's a lot, bro, and he resorted to the bottle. That nigga would be home every day pissing on himself, hanging out the window, calling us. And it just like, when the nigga was drunk, I was always his fucking target. He would come in my room, you so fucking stupid. That shit funny now, but you so fucking stupid. You just like, I'm talking going in on me, calling me everything on the fucking name. I remember, bro, it was to the point where that nigga was damn near my alarm clock, bro. He literally would come in the house about 3 o'clock in the morning, pissing on himself, all type of shit. And this was like a routine. Like, I remember one day, 1 week, this nigga pissed on himself every day of the week, y'all. To the point where our front door smelled like piss. That's how much he used to come home drunk. And him and my mom, they stayed into it. They stayed fighting. They stayed arguing. They stayed going back and forth. Because my mom was a matriarch. She was kind of like the head of the household. And honestly, in the beginning of it all, I remember him helping me. I mean, my mama protected me. Because that was the thing. My mama was my abuser, but she was also my protector. Like, and I think because I was so used to her abuse, I became numb to it when I got a certain age. Like, I mean, because it's just like, what else you gonna do? You gonna put your hands on me? You gonna call me a bitch? You gonna tear me down mentally, physically, emotionally, financially? You can do that a million times if you want to, but it's not gonna make a difference now. But one thing about my mama, she didn't play about us. Like, if we got into a fight or whatever the case may be, I called my mama. Something happened to me at school, I called my mama. Most people in my life still to this day don't even know I had my daddy in my life. Everybody thinks that. They be like, you got your daddy in your life. And on top of that, too, I'm so flamboyant. It's just like, people assume that you are flamboyant or feminine and this, that, and the third, and that's the reason you gay or that's the reason you feminine. So they just look at me and be like, wow, like, you got your daddy. Yeah, I do have my dad. Well, I ain't have him, but he was there, you know. And anywho, my mama was my abuser. And so she was my abuser, but she was also my protector. So in the beginning, my mama had my back. You know, she would protect me from him and this, that, and the third, because we really helped each other out in that area of him become an alcoholic, you know. And the thing about my daddy that I never respected, and I think I probably still to this day still struggle respecting, is he never took accountability for this shit. That nigga never once said, excuse me, I'm sorry for what I did to y'all. I'm sorry for what I put y'all through. I'm sorry for what it was. And I hated that nigga for that. Like, and I know hate's a strong word, but it's a word that I meant. I hated that man for that. I did not understand why, as a grown-ass man, you did not take accountability for what you put your family through. You know? But he didn't. He never took accountability, y'all. He just, I don't know. It's like he just expected us to move forward. And me and my mama, we're not move forward type of people. We're very much so people that we need to talk about this, you know? So in the beginning, it was kind of like my mom was my protector. My mom was everything that I needed. And then it switched, you know? Life got a little more peaceful for them. And they had to find peace for their family and to raise my baby brother. And then it became, from what it looked like my eyes, I was the problem. I was the one causing all of this drama. It was my mama and my daddy against me. And life just went downhill from there. I became extremely suicidal. Life was just going good. Life was going bad. I was ready to slip my fucking wrist. Like, everything in my life was just crazy. Like, at this moment, like, everything was just fucked up, you know? And so I signed myself up for therapy at 16. And I remember signing myself up for therapy and thinking like, wow, this is some grown shit. And my mom signed the papers, and I literally went to therapy every day of the motherfucking week. I adored therapy. Therapy helped me so much. I tell all of my young kids out there that's battling suicide, depression, whatever the case may be, please go to therapy. Therapy helped me out so much. And so therapy taught me that how to deal with this crazy ass environment that I was living in. It gave me somebody to talk to that didn't judge me. And also too, kind of gave me somebody that related to me in a way that I never had experienced. And so I went to therapy, and life got better. I became more articulate, and I started growing and getting to know myself more. And with that, I start accepting the fact that I like boys. And I don't know if I wouldn't say I was in denial, because people say, well, you know, when you was younger, you was in denial about it, but I was not in denial. I was more so just confused, because I had always looked at boys and I'd be like, okay, they cute, you know, they gorgeous, you know, this, that, and third, out of woo woo, but it was never like I wanted to fuck them, you know. I just always looked at them as that, but I never had allowed myself to do that. Like, I had always held my feelings in. And I said, I'm not gay. Like, I don't like boys. I'm not gay. You know, this isn't my life. This, that, and the third, out of whoop, whoop. And I just told myself that, because in my household, that was the worst thing that you could be. My granddad that I told to y'all about earlier, that nigga, I'm talking about, he's so homophobic. All of his kids is felons, in and out of jail, drugs, all type of shit that they be doing over there. And the one kid that he don't talk about that's married, got 2 degrees, you know. I mean, she's not, you know, rich, but she do well for herself. She provide for her kids and this, that, and the third. And not in no crazy shit, not selling drugs. I don't think ever sold drugs or some shit like that. Is my auntie, who he doesn't talk to because she's a lesbian. And so I just remember vividly and candidly just being like, what the fuck, you know, like, at a very young age, it just hit me like, being gay is the worst thing that you could be. It's the worst shit that you could be in the world. And I had so much internalized homophobia, and I was so homophobic. When I was younger, I was overly homophobic, y'all. Like, I know that sounds crazy because I'm such an ally and I support the gays now, but I was so homophobic. Like, I just was taught that was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And hatred is taught. And so, I didn't allow myself to be that way, y'all. I didn't. And my mom, and I remember talking to my therapist, and my therapist just asked me like, "Well, do you like boys?" And I had been getting this question my whole life, and it was just like, no, 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 no. But now that I was in this safe space, and I knew it wasn't coming from a, I hate you, or I'm trying to be funny, or I'm trying to clock your T. It was more so like, do you? Like, and I had sat there and I asked myself, like, do I? Child, I'm talking about, and I remember the moment like yesterday, and it just hit me. It was like a flashlight went off in my head, like, you do, you know. And it was crazy because I also grew up around fake religious people, you know. Like my mom, my great grandma is a Jehovah's Witness, and I grew up around Jehovah's Witnesses, which were amazing to me and showed me nothing but kindness and love. But my mom grew up around that, and they don't play that gay shit. So my mom was like a fake Jehovah's Witness. Like, she would literally be studying for 2 months and then stop, and you know, she never was consistent with it. But it was very much so a thing where I was consistent with it because I took it serious, you know. So I battled with that. Am I going to heaven or hell? And I battled with everything in my life, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. And if I do make it, what is it going to be? And this, that, and the third. And how is this going to affect me? And what does that look like, y'all? Child, I just literally went down this rampage of not knowing what the fuck to do. I didn't know who to talk to and how to feel about this. And I knew my parents was homophobic. And everybody around me was literally like, your mama is not homophobic. You can talk to her about it. Trust me. Like, she's not this, that, and the third. And my cousin had a friend who was gay, and she was also gay. And my mama used to be over there like nothing was wrong with it. So I just decided to talk to my mama about it. Again, I didn't know if I was gay or not. I just needed somebody to talk to about this, because it was just so much, and I just was taught it was so wrong, and this is like, I'm just gonna lead to me going to hell if I start doing this and I start being with men. So if this is the case, then who else do I talk to except for my mama? Because I can't talk to none of my friends about it because they gonna stop being my friends, and I don't even know if this is really me, you know. And I just called my mama one day, and I just like, Ma, no shade, like, I think we need to talk, because I think I might like boys. Like, I think I might be bisexual. That motherfucker said, I'm sorry, let me read that last. She said, you like boys? She said, well, that's something you need to talk about with God, because you going to hell. And hung up the phone. And I said, what the fuck? So about like an hour later, I was like pacing back and forth, because I'm like, was she mad? Was she not mad? Like, does she not give a fuck? Like, what does this mean? Child, that motherfucker got here and said, so you gay? You a F-A-G-G-O-T? And I remember being like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't even know if this is the case. I'm just genuinely like, I think, like, I don't know. So I'm telling her, like, I don't know. Like, I just know I'm having these feelings, and they coming out of nowhere. And I'm praying to God about it. And I'm just trying to pray. And this, that, and the third. And my motherfucking mama looked at me and said, you gay. And going and start crying. This shit was like a Tyler Perry movie, y'all. I swear to God. And I swear, I can't even be loud as I want to. She start rolling on the floor. She start throwing up. She start calling me out my name. She start saying, you a F-A-G-G-O-T. She start, I'm talking about, they did me so bold, y'all. So then, in comes my daddy. Now, my daddy ain't never at motherfucking home at this time. He be home a lot now. But at this time, he ain't never at home. Why the fuck you home now? The nigga come home, y'all. What's wrong? What's going on? He gay. My daddy hugged me twice in my life. The first time he hugged me was when he was going to jail. The second time he hugged me was because he wanted to pray the gay out of me. I'm not, if I'm lying, I am blind. I'm not exaggerating. That nigga said to me, son, no, you gotta pray. You gotta pray. I swear to God, I'm not making this shit up. I remember being like, did this nigga just hug me? Like, he literally hugged me, y'all. And a part of me was happy about that, but I'm like, did this nigga really just hug me? And so, bro, in this moment, I'm trying not to laugh because this shit is so funny, but it's like, this is not a game. Like, they are so dead ass serious, y'all. My mama is throwing up at the fact that she's literally telling me she's so disgusted with me. And after that, I literally went through this journey of internalized homophobia, hating myself, hating my sexuality. And then I eventually overcame it. I overcame like the being overly homophobic, not exploring my sexuality, not exploring myself, and I kind of decided to start living in my truth, and my parents was judgmental. At this time, they were both still battling with alcoholism a lot, and they literally would be like drunk as hell coming in my room, calling me FAGGOTs, being mean, trashing me, talking about me, treating me like shit. Child. And I just really hated myself. And this, that, and the third. And so I kind of just brushed it off and just told my mom like it was a phase. Still to this day, I never like confirmed that with her. Like, I never was like, oh, you know, this is what's going on, or this is who I'm talking to, this is my situation. I never did that with my parents. It was very much so a situation where it was like, just don't talk about it. Like, I feel like they know, you know? And after that, I decided to go to college. College was, in my mind, the best thing that I ever motherfucking thought of. Why? Because I was incredibly academic. I was a 3.8 GPA student. I had very high grades. I've always been incredibly articulate. I always had a passion for mass incarceration. So what I always wanted to do was to go to Morehouse, move to Atlanta, because Atlanta I could be myself. Go to Morehouse, get my degree, and live my life. And I did. I got straight A's that my whole senior year. And at this time, too, in senior year, I'm the motherfucking man. At this time, it was this transition because another huge chapter that I skipped in this video was getting bullied. Like, I got bullied so much, like, and it was mainly because I would say targeting more than bully, because, yeah, it wasn't given that. But it was very much so, obsession. Like, the kids in my class were obsessed with me. Like, it was very weird. Like, especially the boys. I think a lot of them were DL, and a lot of them were DL, because a lot of them now be in my DMs. But it's more so one of those things where them motherfuckers was obsessed with me. Like, they would bully me. I couldn't walk home from school, y'all. Like, they would literally call up to my school to be like, oh, if Frederick Swopes come home from school, we gonna kill him. Like, I'm talking like, they were obsessed with me, overly obsessed with me. They dogged me, they treated me like shit. And then, you know, I was also whooping ass. So let me not make it seem like I'm a victim, but that's the truth. And so, my daddy, excuse me, not my daddy. But when all of this was going on, I just feel like college was the perfect escape for me. Even though, again, senior year, shit is looking good for me. Shit is looking decent. I'm the fucking man in school. Nah, like, I'm that nigga. And I was always that nigga, but I was that nigga in a Regina George way. It was always a rumor about Frederick. It was always a rumor about Frederick. He was always mean. He was always fighting. He was always in some shit. Like, it was always that. And they were always trying to make it seem like I was the fucking bully when I was not. But that's what it was. Let me get a lot of ice water, child. And so, when all of this is going on, child, I will never forget this motherfucking moment. I sat there, and I remember just like planning all of this shit out. Like, if I go to Atlanta, Atlanta's a gay city. I'm going to be able to explore myself, my sexuality, grow into the man that I need to be, while simultaneously getting the fuck up. Like, I remember telling myself that, like, yo, I'm going to get up and I'm going to make this shit happen, and then I'm going to chase my dreams. I'm going to become a criminal defense attorney. Reached out to Morehouse. Morehouse was like, you got the grade, but you competing against Lie. If you give us 2 straight A report cards, we going to accept you. I gave them like 3 straight A report cards and they accepted me. And I did. And then I moved all the way to Morehouse. I got accepted, planned to go there, went there, and I literally remember getting there and them telling me like, oh, well, we need 50,000. 50 who? Like, I mean, we not rich, like, in no way, shape, or form, y'all. Like, we don't have money. And I remember just sitting there like, we don't have 50,000, and looking at my daddy like, is there any loans that y'all can pull out, any student loans to help me out here? This is my dream school. I've been wanting to come here since 6th grade. And my daddy looking at me like, I don't got that shit. Like, I can't do this, you know? And I'm just walking around the campus, and I remember on the tour, y'all, I was the only one who knew everything about Morehouse. I knew everything about Morehouse. The school, the layout, who founded it. I knew everything, you know, because this was my dream place. And I could not fucking go. I did not get a scholarship. They did give me like a $10,000 scholarship, but we ain't have the money to cover it, you know. My daddy was still getting on his feet at this time, you know, still trying to find a little job, you know. Just got out of jail. He got out of jail when I was, 15, 16. Shit was still, you know, picking up. Life was hard, you know. It's a big transition to go from the streets to a normal life. And so, when all of this is going on, I end up not being able to figure anything out and not being able to go to Morehouse. And so, I end up moving back home. And I just knew, like, once I turned 18, I said, I have to get the fuck out of my parents' house. Like, I just do. And I did. I went to Wayne State. Wayne State was probably one of the worst financial decisions I ever fucking made. Why did I move to Wayne State? Because they let me move on dorm before my FAFSA hit. So my FAFSA didn't cover my dorm fees. So it only covered it only gave me like $4,000 or some shit. So basically I was stuck with a bunch of fucking loans. And that motherfucking semester, I had went up there and I had told them, like, listen, I'm willing to leave. Like, I'm willing to drop out now if y'all could just remove it. The lady specifically told me, she said, you got 2 days to leave. You can leave in 2 days and you can get the fuck on. And I remember telling my mom and my daddy, like, hey, they let me go. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they don't, they gonna put this shit on my credit. This gonna set me back. This, that, and the third. Like, I need you to, you know, get this shit, like, let me come home. And they was like, no, you need to be an adult. Like, you need to stay. 2 motherfuckers that ain't never been to college. One of y'all motherfuckers just got out of jail. Y'all in and out the streets y'all whole motherfucking life. Y'all ain't never been to college. How the fuck you gonna tell me I need to stay and figure some shit out that you ain't even gonna fucking figure out your motherfucking self? If I had the right motherfucking guidance, I wouldn't be in this situation now. Let me not say that, because I'm not putting the blame on them. If I knew what the fuck I was doing, I wouldn't be in this situation that I'm in right motherfucking now. But I don't. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to get myself out of this situation before I'm stuck. And they made me stay in that situation. They made me stay at college. And I tell people, college is a rich kid sport. I don't give a fuck what nobody talking about. Like, that shit is hard. When you do not have money, when you do not come from a solid foundation, meaning when you do not come from parents who can give you XYZ a month to get you through college and, you know, this, that, and the third, out of whoop, whoop, it is one of the hardest things to go to school, go to college, and work a job. It's hard. And so, I literally would just be in my dorm for hours because I stopped going to class at that point. And I fell back into another depression hole, child. But, you know, I got out of this shit. And I figured it out, you know. And while all of this is going on, I ain't gonna talk about that bitch. But I started talking to somebody, got out of that situation, moved back home for about a year, worked a job, and I moved to Atlanta. Started content, and now I'm here. And so, I don't know why the fuck, I'm not gonna lie. This was not my intentional story time. I literally just clicked on this camera today and I just start talking. So I don't know why I did that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why did I tell this story time. I don't know why I just poured out my whole life to y'all like that. But I think it's power in it, and to an extent, because I think so many people don't understand that you really not alone in the shit that you're going through. Like, a lot of times people look at what they feel like is good, what they feel like is luxurious, what they feel like is glamorous, and that's just really not the case. The reality of it all is, niggas out here figuring shit out too. Niggas out here everything out. And I think if you gonna take away anything from this, like, you could be resilient. You know, you could come back from anything. I mean, it may not be sad to some people. Maybe like, oh, that's just life. And to an extent it is. It is just life. But it's just one of those things where I just kind of wanted to have a vulnerable moment with my audience. And I don't know. Well, I don't know why the fuck did I just get on here and say that. I don't know. But yeah, I did. And yeah, so love you guys. And back to regular story times on Monday. For sure. Sorry if this is not what y'all wanted. Yeah. Well, let the Lord be with you. And yes.